This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Joining us today is George Roach, the CEO of Premier African Minerals. Thank you very much for joining us today, George. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm all right. Thank you, Mark. It's always good to be chatting to you. Thank you.
Indeed. Well, we're going to catch up on just a couple of announcements. I mean, first of all, this morning, of course, the notice of the AGM, and there's a couple of items to be discussed there. The first one is the reappointment of yourself, but the second one is, of course, the preemptive rights, which enable you to issue more shares than has been previously sort of agreed. So you're looking to seek approval to do that. Now, this is in line with the newly revised deal with Canmax, isn't it? But just explain to me why you want to have this preemptive rights agreed.
Yes. So I think, Mark, let me make the point right up front that I don't plan to issue any more shares at this stage. And that it is a recommendation anyway that AIM companies should have somewhere between 10 and 20% of whatever the issued share capital is available in this form. That's just plain good governance. But coming back to the resolution, the second resolution, and the situation with it, we've in our discussions with Canmax, and we've been clear in the public domain already that Canmax are strongly supportive, and their need is to get spodumene. That's what they want. That's why they're there. That's why they're talking to us. That's why they're being as patient as they are in regard to some of the delays and so on that we've had. So in the discussions, in principle, we agree on a couple of very important things. The one is that the basis of pricing should change from the direct purchase of spodumene to a profit share basis. And the basis of the profit share is that the constant and known selling price that's out there that everybody can track much easier than spodumene is lithium hydroxide. And that you can get from a number of different markets. It's widely available, and it's a much better indicator. So in principle, what we would do is we would take the costs that Premier will incur, or Zulu will incur, in actually producing the concentrate and getting it delivered to main China port. And we would take the costs that Canmax would incur in actually processing the spodumene into hydroxide, and those costs would be recovered from the gross selling price achieved on lithium hydroxide originating from spodumene supplied by Zulu. The conversion is approximately 7.5 tons of spodumene SC6 to 1 ton of lithium hydroxide. Just to give an idea, and the lithium hydroxide price is out in the public domain. So that's the basis under which we would be looking. That's the one point. The second point is that provided we are able to get this agreement signed between Canmax and ourselves, and we have both agreed to instruct the solicitors to get this agreement drawn. Now that instruction's already gone to them and they've been told to get it drawn. Provided we get this thing done, drawn, signed and sealed by the 25th of June, then Canmax will entertain a further pre-purchase for additional spodumene, and the net effect of that is that they would be agreeing to buy a certain additional quantity, and they would be paying for that quantity in advance. Now, that payment in advance that would take place on the date of signature of that agreement, provided the agreement is signed, is adequate, and it deals with the shortfall in funding situations that we have. So having said that, coming back to the resolution, it's a as much appropriate that an AIM company should have this latitude, as in this instance, it gives the board the opportunity to be in a position to be masters of its own future, as it were, not to be put in a position where we can effectively be held to ransom by something else. So it really is an assurance, not assurance, insurance, effectively, to give us the comfort that on the basis that this agreement is signed on the 25th and everybody does what we've spoken about and so on, that we're fine. But if something were to go wrong, it's in the interests of Prem, Zulu, our shareholders, and everybody involved to know that there is an alternative that is immediately available. So I think that's the context of this. And I just wanted to emphasize again that we're not doing this because I want to run out and issue some more shares. That's the last thing I want to do. You know, I'm also a shareholder of this, and dilutes me as much as anybody else.
Indeed. Okay, well, that's very clear. You do not want to issue more shares. It is an insurance policy, effectively, in case the deal, which is verbally agreed, but going through the formal process now, it gives you insurance up until that point of the 25th of June.
Mark, that's a much better summary and much fewer words than I had.
Okay. And I mean, once a deal is signed, then you say that the further prepayment money that will come in will see you through to the full production.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
That's what it's designed to do.
That's what it's designed to do. Okay. Just a final thought, George, just on the deal, because that sounds to me like that's a fairly significant change, the original terms of the deal and the pricing structure. So you both feel this is the best interests of both the parties, and also how does it change the payment schedule? Because of course before, almost as soon as the spodumene was taken off site, you could actually raise invoices, but this will presumably come later now.
Mark, no, it's not, because we've been very clear all the way through that at the very least, the costs that we incur in the production need to be settled in the short term. So there will still be the ability to call for smaller shipments. That hasn't come off the table. We can still do smaller shipments, and we can still call for partial payments as shipments are done, etc., etc.
Okay.
I think. Let me make the point that underlying all of this, from Canmax's point of view, has been the very simple requirement that says, make shipments, show us what you're shipping, and we'll help you to whatever extent you require. And I think that really is where this is what underlies all of this.
Okay. Well, I think that sums that up very well, George. And so the longer term goal here is, of course, to have that profit share of the lithium hydroxide once the production is in full motion, really.
Oh, absolutely. It's worth noting that, and this has become very clear over the last couple of months, that reported selling prices on spodumene are all over the place. It's the only way that I can describe it. If one looks at fast markets, which is really where we were, I think fast markets average for last month, I think was about $3,800, something along those lines. If you look at some of the Australian indexes or some of the stuff coming out of there, you get all sorts of numbers. And then you'll get these crazy numbers that relate to a spot shipment. And the spot shipment might have been 1,000 tons, and it might have been a one-off. So I think that going to the hydroxide pricing is a much more stable and much more sensible way in the long term.
In the long term, yeah, okay. That's what it sounds to me. This is sounding more like a long-term idea and plan as opposed to just shipping the spodumene.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We really are looking at the longer-term picture of this, and along those lines, looking also at the increases in production that we believe will come out of Zulu in time as we get all of this fine-tuned and so on.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. I do have to ask, final question. Can we expect the resource update statement, George? Is it on its way? Is it soon?
I've done so much work on that. Mark. And I think I have explained this before.
Yes.
What we're concerned with is only what we're going to mine out of the southern pit associated with this plant. And that's really very, very close.
Okay.
There's probably another 600 odd assays to be put into it, but it really is close now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, George Roach, CEO of Premier African Minerals.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.